The purpose of this assignment is two reasons. First, students in advanced English wrote a paper about why is it important to understand autism. And they're going to enter this paper into a scholastic contest. And our job is we are going to score these students to pick 3 top winners to be entered into the contest. The reason specifically why we're doing this is not only to choose winners, but it's to also help us get used to this rubric that we use. Because I firmly believe that if you are able to use this rubric to score other papers, it's going to help you know what you need to do when you write papers to get a good score. So, first of all, if you have not read this article, it looks like this. You're going to read it. It's attached to Skyward. And then after that, you're going to open up your rubrics, which looks like this. And you're going to go through each paper, and your job is to go through the paper and score it based on the rubric. So what I want to do right now is I want to take a couple minutes just to discuss a few things in the rubric. First of all, if we take a look at the introduction paragraph and we take a look at a hook, notice how if the hook asks a yes or no question, it's a 1. If the hook is striking, so in other words it doesn't ask a yes or no question and it does get your interest, that's a 2. Thesis, basically if they restate and answer the question, that's a 1. And our question is, why is it important to understand autism? Preview. If the preview restates the thesis and only gives one reason, that's a 1. If the preview restates the thesis, gives 2 reasons, that's a 2. If the preview restates the thesis and gives 3 reasons, that's a 3. A 4 is synonyms are used to restate the thesis and give 3 reasons. Most people are at a 3, so when you look for this one, check to see if the first part of the thesis is reworded a little bit differently than it was for this one. Grammar conventions, this is for every paragraph. You're just looking for capital letters, periods, sentence structure, that's correct. Everyone makes mistakes, so I do get that there could be a few errors, but if there's a lot of errors, I would give it a 0. If there's only a couple errors, I'd give it a 1. Let's talk about body paragraphs. Now, the first body paragraph, we're going to look at a topic sentence, and the topic sentence should restate the preview, and it should restate it all the way up to the first reason. Now, it's okay to use synonyms. In fact, that's a good thing to use synonyms for a topic sentence, as long as they don't change the reason that they gave for the first reason in their preview. Text credit, it's out of 2 points. They get 1 point if they only gave credit to the text correctly once. They give 2 points, correctly gave credit to the text twice. Remember, if it's a quote, it needs a page number and an author's last name or a title. If it's paraphrase, all it needs is the author's last name or a title. Text evidence. Notice how it's out of 6 points. That's because we have 2 pieces of text evidence. So you're looking at each piece of text evidence and you're asking yourself, first of all, level 1, that means they tried to provide text evidence, but it really doesn't prove the reason for their topic sentence. Level 2, they gave a decent amount of text evidence and it somewhat proves a reason in the topic sentence, but it doesn't really prove the reason. Level 3, the text evidence actually does prove the reason in the topic sentence, and there's enough evidence there to actually sufficiently prove the reason. You're looking at both pieces of evidence, and there's a total of 6 points here. So if both pieces are 3, they'd have a 6. If one piece of evidence is a 2, and one piece is a 3, it'd be a 5. Last thing we're going to talk about is explanations. These are the tough ones. Level 1 is they just attempted to provide an explanation. So this means they just put a blue sentence in. A lot of times people get a 1 because they summarize a text, so they just tell us what the text says, but they don't persuade us at all. Level 2 is the explanation is insightful. In other words, they don't just summarize a text. They actually go into depth and they explain what the text says and they explain why it's important, but they don't make it's not persuasive and they don't make a key connection. In every paper, remember our key connection relates to our thesis. So in this paper, this exclamation should be trying to prove to us why it is important to understand autism. And you'll notice in a lot of these papers, people told us why their text evidence is important, or why it's bad to have autism, or how people with autism, should be treated nicely. That's nice. That would be a 2. But to get a 3, their exclamations need to tell us, why does their text evidence prove that we should understand autism? How's that going to help these kids? How's it going to help people who don't have autism? That's to get a 3. A 3 is a really hard score to get. So just kind of keep that in mind. And then again, conventions. Okay, so you're going to go through each body paragraph. Following that, last but not least, is our conclusion paragraph. They're going to restate the thesis. If they do that, they get a 1. If they use a conclusion starter, so they say in conclusion, as you can see clearly, they get a 2. Preview. If they restate the preview, they get a 2. If they use synonyms, so their preview sounds differently than it does up in the introduction paragraph, they get a 3. Now remember, they need to keep all 3 reasons. They can reword it. They can find synonyms so the 3 reasons sound different, but they still all 3 need to be there. A clincher, they threw a clincher in, they get a 1. They get a 2 if they create a clincher that's actually impressionable, memorable. It makes a person kind of hold on to the paper, maybe step back and think. So when you do this, you're going to give them a score. It's out of 58. And then once you're totally done with all 6 papers, you're going to show me your graded rubrics. And then I'm going to give you the voting form, and you're going to vote for the top 3 papers. And whoever gets the top 3 people that gets the most votes will be entered in the Scholastic contest, and we'll see if they win it. If you have any questions, please ask me.